Today we're going to turn 300 aluminum cans into an aluminum Halloween skull. First, we're going to go to Walmart and pick up a candle skull. Now, we're going to cut 5" by 5" square pieces, 5 of them, to build the box for the mold. Now we're going to lay out the 5 pieces and make sure that the candle will fit inside. Now we lay down hot glue and glue all the way around the edges to make sure that there's no gaps for any of the plaster Paris to leak out of. Here we leave a gap on the corner to make it easier to take apart. Now we fit the skull in it and mix up the plaster Paris. As we pull the plaster Paris in, we want to make sure we shake it down and get all the air bubbles and the voids out of it before we put the second layer on top and tap it to get all the air bubbles out of it. And then we're going to let it cure while we start melting down those 300 soda cans. Here we're taking the slag off and go ahead and stuff more pop cans in it. Now after 2.5 hours, we're getting to the end of the soda cans and it's time to unmold the skull. You can see it's hard. I'm going to scrape the top of it off a little bit to get all that excess off. And then we're going to wedge it in and pry it apart gently so that we can save the pieces of wood for another mold down the road. The hot glue, as you can see, is held very well and very tight. It takes a little bit of persuasion to get it to separate. But again, with a little bit of sanding, these pieces will be able to be used again for another mold. The wax is soft and it's time to go get it in the oven. At 350 degrees, and we've got the mold set up, ready to go on top of an old coffee can so that the wax can melt into it. And then we have 2 other pans for overflow to protect the oven in case any wax gets away from us. And then into the oven it goes. And it takes about an hour to get all the wax melted out of it. Now it's time to pull the wax out and put the mold back in to heat up and to completely dry out so that all the moisture is gone, so it doesn't crack when we start pouring the new aluminum in. Here you can see we have the mold next to the kiln, keeping warm as we get ready to pour the molten aluminum into the mold. At first, we have a little bit of wax that starts to smoke off, And pretty soon the wax that is left in there gets warm and we start to see some flames. And we're going to slowly pour it in until we have it completely topped off all the way to the top. And any extra we will put into the muffin tin next to it to save for another project. After it's cured for about 3 hours, we go ahead and split the mold apart. And even after 3 hours, it is still warm. You can see there's still plaster Paris in the eyes and the nose, and we do have some air pockets that formed in it when we poured the aluminum in. Now the best way to clean this up would be a wire wheel on a grinding bench, but it was too hard to video cleaning it up that way, so I opted to use the drill with a wire brush on it. It was a lot harder and it kept getting away from me, so this is where I went and got my portable vise to bring over. And normally I would clamp it to the desk so that it didn't move, but again that interfered with the videoing and I wanted to show the cleaning of all the little nooks and crannies and crevices. So I just dealt with it. And off camera, I cleaned it up better using the bench grinder. Now, after that, now there's still a little bit of plaster Paris in the eyes, so we're going to grab a burr tool and put it onto the drill and go ahead and work on cleaning out those plaster Paris out of those eyes sockets a little bit better. Now we're going to take a little flat wire wheel and go ahead and get all the nooks and crannies and the little pieces that we couldn't get into around the eyes, around the nose, around the lips and the teeth. And here we go. It's definitely not perfect, and there's definitely some learning that we need to do in this to get some perfect molds. But for Halloween, it looks pretty good. And after Halloween's over, maybe we'll cut it right down the middle and make some half bookends. If you like this video, go subscribe, give us a thumbs up, and look for all of our new adventures coming soon.